as
Looks
usual.
like we lost Tommy.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be back, man. But we about to start shortly. Give me 1 second, man.
No problem.
I want to. Well, I want to say welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. We had 2 guests tonight, but I guess we lost one. I'm flying solo. Chris is traveling and Devin is running late, so I'm in the studio by myself tonight. Very special guest, great friend of mine. Got my man, Dr. James Young. I guess Tommy Frank will be back shortly. So what I want to talk about tonight, we can jump right into this because you got to go early, right?
Hey, I'm here. If we're
Oh, cool.
as long as we're here, I'm good.
All right, cool. Because I want to
I
jump
work
right
my schedule around, so we're good.
Yeah, I want to jump right into this, man. What I want to talk about tonight is it's time for a checkup. And you guys got to excuse me, man, because I'm here by myself. So I got to hit the camera. And we good. I apologize for that. But I want to talk about it's time for a checkup. And what I want to talk about is self-reflection and whether we think it's important or not. I know a lot of people, especially James, as we get older and we go through things, we have a tendency to start thinking about coulda, woulda, shoulda. But I wonder how valuable that is to do, before we get to that point. And I know you're a man of 2 lives, I like to say when I talk about you, the military life and then what you're doing now. So first of all, do you think it's important that we do have self-checkups, that we take time to,
That self-reflection is critical. I want to say crucial. Like it's so important that we do take time to self-reflect, because if you don't self-reflect, first and foremost, there's no growth. You don't realize the accomplishments you've made. So a lot of times when we go back and we take that time for that checkup and self-reflect, we have the opportunity to then say, wow, I accomplished that. Or, wow, I overcame that. The obstacles that are in front of us and the things that seem insurmountable, we realize that we got through. So that self-reflection is absolutely important, yes. And we have to do that self-checkup.
All right, so I'm going to throw the same question to Tommy. What we're talking about is self-reflection, and whether we think it's important or not. So, I know when we're younger, and I'm going to repeat the same thing because you just came on, when we're younger, when we start to get older, we go through something, then we start to reflect. But do you think it's important, and why, that we do it before we go through something, or that is just a general practice that we have?
I think James hit it, on the nose when he said that it's just so important to evaluate yourself for growth purposes, and just for day-to-day survival, to see what am I doing it right. In our community of men, we talk about vision statements a lot, and then you look at your vision statement every day and say, hey, am I doing what I think I'm doing? Am I on track to do what I believe I'm here to do and what I really want to do? And like you said, when you're younger, sometimes you don't even think to look back at what did I do yesterday, or what am I doing? What is my plan to do things for the day, and can I achieve some of those things? So I think it is. I'll talk about it also in a medical way. For me personally, I with my MS, I do a mindfulness meditation. And I do it daily, where I do what they call a body scan, and I focus on the top of my head, and I go all the way down to the feet. And when I'm focusing on the top of my head, and because I have MS, I tend to find a ring going around the top of my head. Oh, look at that ring. I said, but that's MS, and I accept it. I say I can't do nothing about it, but I'm not going to let it bother me. It's just my MS is there, and it's there almost every day. as you go through the rest of the body, sometimes you don't find nothing, sometimes you find something. But from a medical point of view, it helps me to accept my MS, my illness, my disease. It also helps me to accept, who I am. So, I agree. It's good for growth.
All right. Well, we lost Tommy. You went mute, but
I went mute.
yeah, now you back now. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but I think it's funny because I used to when I first started doing it, I used to do it twice a year. Beginning of the year, end of the year. That was like my routine, and I would do it. And now as I get older, I found myself doing it like almost monthly. Well, I kind of, I'm taking inventory, I'm checking all boxes, and we all agree, we can all come together on this, especially when people are around you begin to lose people, you really start to pay attention to detail a little more. You really kind of get a sense of urgency, about, man, I really need to do an inventory in my life, not in a bad way, but in the sense that, I don't have tomorrow. I don't have 10 years from now. We run around the schoolyard, we thought we have forever. We have forever. And then, all of a sudden you look at where we are now in life. So I think, one of the things, because I also want to give tips. So I want you guys, if you have something to share, but I think it's important for me to help me stay focused. That do think about where I come from. So what are some of the things that you do? I know, Tommy, you missed the mindfulness, but what are some of the things you do during that self-reflection? And what do you do with the self-reflection? James, you can go first.
I was waiting on Tommy to break through.
Yeah, both y'all.
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead, brother Tommy.
I got talking about the mindfulness and then the vision statement is another thing. I look at my vision statement and just to check on that. And, maybe I need to improve on it. Like Chris said, going once a year, twice a year, just really looking at your whole environment and saying that, like, it's people that him and I grew up with, and they're not here, So life is short, and that's when you have a funeral to go to, and that's when a self-reflection is another time to self-reflect and say, wow,
yeah,
this person lived from 1965 to the day, or 1970 to the day. And I was here from this time to this time, but it's that it's that poem that forget her name, then what they call the dash, when you start reflecting on that gap. When you see that obituary that says January 1st, 1950s, and then you see a dash in between, and that dash represents your life. That little dash that they had in between there represents that's what you did. But when you look at that dash, you ask yourself, did I do this much, or did I do that much, or did I achieve this much, or did I achieve? I mean, it's time to reflect. And I think a lot of people don't spend that time to reflect that and how short life is. So, yeah, there's different times when I look out and I reach out to do things to reflect, to do that self-reflection. And I'll say this, not to when you talk to somebody that's been known forever and a day, and you talk about them and you start reminiscing on, wow, we used to be able to do that. We used to do that. And that wasn't so smart, and this was okay, So, you do self-reflect, and hopefully you can improve on your quality of life and just the way you pursue things.
Shout out to my man Wayne. Thanks for tuning in again, man. Don't forget, you got to like, subscribe, and follow. All right, James, you up, man?
Oh man, I gotta follow that. I wanted him to go first, but I didn't know he was gonna steal the whole show. Good stuff, Tommy. Good stuff, brother. But he hits the nail on the head too, because one of the key factors in there, yes, the dash is the smallest thing on the information, but it's the biggest ripple effect of what's been done. But a lot of that, we don't take the time. And one of the things that really helped me understand mindfulness from me was when I first deployed. All right, coming back from a deployment where there's so many of us service members that go out and don't come home the same way we left. You know, some come home postpartum, some come home in a box, right? That's not okay. Excuse me. But being able to go out and then come back whole, come back in one piece, come back safe and sound of body and sound of mind, it's like, whoa, okay, that was a victory. Well, let's reflect on this for a moment, right? And then you think about all the things okay, I'll use myself. I'll think about all the things that I was able to achieve and accomplish while I was out, right? The lives that I was able to, improve and save as I was out doing my day to day. We don't think about that part. A lot of times that, I'll run into people and they say, well, oh, I just do this. I was in we know I'm still recovering from patellar injuries, from patellar repairs, right? And I met so many people in the hospital, and one young lady in particular, she says, oh, I just cart patients to and from their room to their appointment and vice versa. I said, well, I need you to take a moment to understand the bigger picture of you being that person. I don't ever want to hear you say I'm just that person again, because without you, we don't get to and from. And oh, by the way, let's look at the ripple effect of you not doing what you do. If you don't get me there to where I need to be, they're backed up. I'm not served. So you're causing a much larger ripple than you're giving yourself credit for. You're critical to people's wellness and their health state improving.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is missed because we got blinders on, we got tunnel vision. And we never take that time to self-reflect. We don't go back and say, oh, wow, just me transporting people, I was able to help them improve their health.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important, man. I mean, one thing about self-reflection for me, it teaches me or remind me to be grateful. It does. That's the first thing it does, because when I start thinking about, some of the things, as Tommy said, that I've done, I start thinking about some of the folk I grew up with. I start thinking about how, there were people who we made pretty much had kind of the same life. We just end up making different decisions at a different junction in our life. No rhyme or reason, we just did, down to the friends we choose and everything. So when I do reflect back, it teaches me to be grateful. I think back to our Stokely school days when I went to Stokely school, and your sister posted a picture, man, of the final sixth grade class. And I was looking at the picture, your mom looked like she was like 25 years old, man. I'm looking at this picture at the time, you're like, wow. But it also took me back to a place. I think about the things I learned there, that kind of made me who I am. My knowledge and my love for learning in Black history, because I remember those Rosa Parks and Ozzie, things we saw, and Ozzie Davis and the different videos we saw. So that does. I remember those days in the schoolyard, and what it did is it made me realize how the sum total of everything we've been through, is who we are today, both good and bad. So self-reflection does help me a lot with that, man. I think the second thing about self-reflection that I really like is it kind of, if you really sit down and do it honestly, it almost is like looking at a movie. It is. It's like looking at a movie of your life, man, because you start to see all these things that you've been through, the things that you overcome. Like I hear Tommy talk about MS and James, what you're going through right now physically. I sit down, I think about all the things that we've been through, and how I got through them. And those are things that I can use when future stuff comes down the pike. You know what I mean? I can remember how I struggled, so maybe I don't have to struggle next time. And the third thing, self-reflection helps give me clarity, man. It helps me better understand, some decisions I make today because I know where they came from. So let's get back to another question for you guys, and you can decide whoever go first. I would say flip a coin, but y'all not together, so that's not gonna work out too well. But anyway, so what would you say to somebody about how self-reflection, your ability to self-reflect, how it has impacted your life, positively or negatively?
I'll go first. Chris, excellent follow up to David, to James and I response. And yeah, I trying to stay focused on the subject, on the question asked, but I go back to when I finally found out that you had cancer, and I can only remember me crying, all my way to the hospital to get to you, and saying, in the hospital with cancer, and I hate that, So my reflection was, I looked at myself crying, and I said, I can't be crying when I get to the hospital. So, I want to make sure that I cry it all out in this drive to the hospital. And I was happy to see that. But, so you saying that, when I tell somebody when you self-reflect what benefits it does, it said to me then, I'm like, what has this, my brother meant to me, all my life? Why am I crying? Because we had way more good times than bad, and so, I said, so why am I crying? Is because I don't want to lose him, I don't want him to go and leave me, like that. But so it was a reflection on, whenever I talk to him about my illnesses, and I'll say, well, him about my illnesses. I see a sad look in his face. He must gonna see this. I don't want him to see that when I get to this hospital. So I wanted to reflect from, lack of better words, your reflection on what I see from you versus what I see from me. That I didn't want you to feel that additional sadness because I'm, coming to see you when you suffer cancer, and I know when I'm hurting, you're hurting. So I would tell somebody yourself that how you see other responses from other people and how you want them to respond to what they see from you. As James says, people are always watching you. And so you gotta always look and say, I have to be my best person, or I don't necessarily even know what benefit that I had. Like, what he told the young lady that was a transporter. Oh, that's not you just transporting. No, that, his reflection, or she had to see his reflection, and that had to uplift her, is that, oh, I'm very important here. I'm very important here. So, I know I'm kind of all over the place with that, but it's just to reach somebody to get them to understand all the benefits that it would have for them to self-reflect. It's a wide scope of things that they can do and why it benefits them to self-reflect on their behavior because the impact that they have on others.
All right, Dr. James.
That was an amazing summary, Tommy. And I see it the same way. When I talk to someone about self-reflection, what I would tell someone is flat out, you need to reflect and do it often. That's what we mess up. We wait till we're way, way older or something major happens and we miss a whole lot of growth opportunities. When you self-reflect, and this is what I would tell someone, when you self-reflect, you learn about you. You're able to look at how you got through something or gotten over something or gotten past something, and you learn what did I need to learn in that? And you figure it out because now you've already completed, right? You've succeeded, you've achieved. Okay, great. But now you can also use what you've learned to now look ahead. Am I heading the right way? Do I need to make a left or a right? Do I need to revamp my plan? Do I need to build a plan? Yes, we do. But these are all things that we don't recognize if we don't take those moments to reflect. So that's what I would tell someone. Just really take that time and do it often.
Yeah, and that's some points that I wrote down. As you guys was talking, I was thinking, you know what? I think the benefit of self-reflecting for people that's out there that's listening, that's thinking, oh man, why I want to think about stuff that happened that didn't work out well. But at some points, one thing I know for me when I self-reflect, that's where I can draw strength and courage from. I think about Tommy, you mentioned it, man. And when you're sick, I think people don't realize how important the mental aspect of it is. Tommy touched on that several times, man. That when you're sick, it matters if you're depressed. I mean, it matters if you have energy, if you want to fight. And I think so. I do, and I think back to things I went through growing up, the things I had to kind of survive or get through to grow through. Also, it reminds me, man, that I got to compete. That I can't be complacent. I can be content, like Paul said. Content knowing that things are going to get better, things are going to change, but I got to constantly compete. And I think too many people get stuck in mediocrity because they don't reflect, or when they reflect, they reflect on negative stuff, just the negative stuff. I think the fourth thing, that I got from that, and I use my sports analogy, get one in every show, you got to have a good offense and a good defense. I think we forget about that, man. And so many times, and I'll start with defense first. What I mean by that is, James, what you went through. We were having those conversations, man. And you even said it before we got on air today that, I'm counting those small victories because, I gotta, that's how I'm getting myself together. That's how I'm defending against depression or, the sadness, whatever. And the good offense is doing the things you need to do to get to the other side, regardless. And Tommy talked about it, what somebody else thinks. You may, because I'm the same way. I'm like, look, man, I done survived 2 major sicknesses, I just turned 61 and I'm relishing in that, man. Hey, who cares what people think? At this stage of the game, I've been here 3 score in a year. And yeah, so I think about it, but I think about that, the good offense and the defense, man. And I think, one thing that always just sticks out to me is I say this all the time, man. Whenever that day comes, I want to end well. I want to finish well. I don't want my like Tommy said, I want it to be a dash. I need it to be a long line. I don't want it to be a little hyphen. I need it to be a long line, man. And I do, and I think that's what reflection helps me think about, man. He thinks about he taught me crack it up. I think about my legacy, man. What am I leaving behind? What are people going to say about me? To my grandson. What is my grandson going to say about me? And so that to me, it's important. And I think that helps me because I self-reflect. I just don't think about, what happened this morning. I go back. It also helps me make better decisions. Because, what our grandparents used to tell us, nothing new under the sun is not. And some of us, we keep coming back to the proverbial crossroad, because we didn't make a good decision the first time. So I think self-reflection also helps us, when we get to that proverbial fork, that we kind of know to go the right way this time. So those are just some of the things I get out of self-reflection. So let's talk a little further because we all married. We all got some years in. You know, so how do you think self-reflection helps you progress in your relationship? Don't give me any details now, but from your single days to your married days to when you first got married to the point now where you're in this mature relationship. Because we all got double-digit years in. So and I know there's some people listening who may be in a relationship or about to head into a relationship or maybe trying to get serious. I don't know. So y'all want me to go first because y'all looking at me cracking up, man. I know when I think about some of the choices I made in my relationships, they weren't always good. They weren't always smart. A lot of those choices I made was out of selfishness. It was. Let's be honest, lust. They weren't intelligent things. So through self-reflection, I've learned from those mistakes. I've learned how I treated people, how I got treated. I learned a lot from that. Through self-reflection, man. I thought about some of the situations I got involved in, even some of the discussions that kind of was crazy. I thought about the part I played in. So I was able, when I got married, to kind of mature a little bit. I say a little bit when I first got married, to use that in my relationship. Like, okay, I know I can't say this. You know what I mean? I know I can't, do this anymore. Even though in my mind I'm thinking this may be a good thing to do. In my heart, I know this is not the right thing to do. So it helps me. Even now, being married 38 years, I look back on those times when it was tough. We all had them. Let's be transparent. And I've learned from them. So self-reflection helps me, not go through those times again or be better prepared, when those valleys do come. It also helped me in the conversations with my kids because now I can talk to them and give them some solid advice because been there, done that. So I think self-reflection is good because it also helps you have information to pass on. You know what I mean? It also gives you, knowledge that you can share. So who's next? I stalled enough for y'all.
Oh, you good. You good.
I'll go. James, unless you want to go.
I'm ready.
Go for it. You go for it.
All right. Well, like you said, Chris, nothing under the sun is new. So with that in mind, when we're talking about the importance of self-reflection in relationships, nothing under the sun is new. What I learned, and this is what I tell younger folks that are, just thinking about getting married or getting ready to move in together or whatever the case may be, preferably moving in together married, but it is what it is nowadays in society. But the bottom line is we learn, and I'll say we, the three of us for sure, learn the importance and the value of communication. When we're talking about taking that time to self-reflect, you learn how difficult you can be sometimes. I'll say me, learn how difficult I can be sometimes. I learned how I need to act, and I don't mean act in a sense, but I learned how my actions or behaviors impact her, and vice versa. But then we need to be able to move in the same direction. Now, I could be going a little bit southeast, she could be going a little bit northeast, but as long as we both headed east, we're gonna work it out. Right? But if I'm headed east and she's headed west, then we're done. It doesn't work. So the importance of communication and stuff is also big in self-reflection. You learn about you and your partner so that it works better through easy communication.
Well, I want to give a shout out to Gary Sharp, Tommy. We got the Sharp man on here, man. He says walk circumspectly. But yeah, I mean, I think about, and I think that's one thing that we're not taught. It's funny because imagine if life was a tool belt. We had these tool belts. That's the one thing we're not taught is how to think back, how to look back on, even mistakes that we've made and learn from, on how to look back at, like I love sports analogies. I do, because I remember, and I used to be petrified. Man, I used to be like, yo, man, I'm about to walk out here in front of all these people, man. It was like, whoa, what nobody ever knew. And as I got, it was funny because when I went on, When I went to play college ball or something like that, people was like, yo, you never get nervous. Nervous. I'm like, man, I played in places where they would hurt me if the game would go the way they wanted to go. So I could reflect on that when I was in school. It was like, so it was no problem now. To me, it was, their version of a hostile gym and my version of a hostile gym was two different things. So I think that helped me a lot. And even in my marriage, man, just being able to think back to growing up, my mom and my dad, being around different families, being around Tommy's family, Todd Ford, Donald Barkley, Kevin Puckett, Fred McCaw, I'm going to list of people, man. I reflect on those things, man, in those circumstances, and I learn from them. So I can use those tools, in my current relationship with my wife. Wayne, I got a story about Wayne and Garrett. They're both on there where, they're part of that self-reflection, because I think for me, I also draw off the people that I've encountered on this journey, good and bad, because it helped me grow. It helped me get better. It helped me get to a place where, I can look at things differently. It's funny because I say this a lot. Somebody asked me about this today because I was talking and I said it again. I always felt like I was that square peg trying to fit into the round hole. And you kind of struggle with that, and then as you get older, you kind of forget about it. And then you get put in that place again. Yeah, you forget about it. Then you get put in that place again. And then you start reflecting like, man, you remember what it was like, what it felt like, but for me, I could draw off of that, because it became fuel. So I think it's important. Self-reflection in relationships is so important, man. I think, even in our walk of life, Tommy mentioned the community of men. I think one of the things that make that call so strong is because we have those different backgrounds where people go back and draw on past experiences and say, hey, yo, I don't like, y'all know I don't like the term remember when, so I'm not going to say that, but, we do. But I think that's something that we haven't really passed on. It's like history. We don't teach history and we don't teach self-reflection, so therefore you got a bunch of people now living day by day, making the same mistakes. We all know the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So Gary and Wayne, you put a question there, man. I can fire it out, man, because I can see the chat box from here. I just think it's so important. So my next question about self-reflection is,
Look, let me speak on that. Y'all skipped over me on this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You went first. See, I let James go second. I'm not be I'm going to echo basically what both you guys are saying.
Hold on. All that just to say you an echo? Come on, man.
Well, no, I'm going to add to it. I'm going to add a little bit to it, but I'm going to just echo because I think both you guys made strong statements to relationships. And like you said, it may be because of life experiences. We've been in those relationships for a long time. So if you reflect back on it, you're going to share those experiences that you had when you reminisce with that loved one or whatever the case may be. But the understanding is that, that positive understanding is that we're two different people. Yeah. We're growing as people, as individuals, and we're growing together. So when you self-reflect, you're saying that, look, I've been with this for over 38 years, and so it's been special, and I can't say nothing different other than it's just been a special time in a relationship to be with somebody. I've been with her longer than I've been with my mother and my brothers and my sisters, so she reminds me that whenever she gets a chance to let me know that, you with me, you with me. So I appreciate that because we've grown together from past experiences, and we continue to grow together out of that respect of that we are different people that's trying to grow together to be the best as we can as a couple. So I have no regrets at all. So it's just that relationship piece is just a good piece to touch on, because when you reflect back on your relationship, now you reflect back on two people growing as one. So that's part of you reflecting on yourself, and you reflect on her and say, wow, what did all I get from her? What is she getting from me? Yeah. Thanks for letting me add to your comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you for reminding us that we skipped over you.
Yes, I did.
So my, this, I want to throw this out there now. For me, I can go back to specific moments in my life and remember them like they were yesterday. I can go back to moments that kind of propelled me, that challenged me, moments that smacked me upside the head. I can, and I actually use those moments. It's funny because when Nicole had Mackenzie, she gave me the shirt, and she gave us all shirts with sayings that kind of pertain to our personalities. And the shirt she gave me was, "My grandfather's going to have 1,000,001 stories to tell me." Because I can reflect in those moments, man. I can remember from elementary school on. I can pick out times, man, that I would look at even as an adult and say, "Wow, it was a turning point." So, absolutely right, Gary. Gary said all things work together. So think about that, man. Are you the same way? Or is it? Because sometimes I wonder, is it just me? Because it's almost like I can just see clear this stuff like it was yesterday. So are you the same way? I would love Gary and Wayne. Are you guys the same way? Can you just like think of moments and they just stick out in your head like bam?
I'm definitely the same way. I mean, I can definitely speak to certain moments in my life, and even moments when I first realized, wow, there is a God.
Yeah.
I said that only had to be God. The only way that I got saved, or what only way that happened. Me crossing the street and a car comes speeding by and just missed me. He didn't see me at all, and whatever the case may be, and I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah,
So there's many moments like that I can say, yeah, I can definitely reflect that.
I can go back to when I was at Strawberry Mansion. Mr. Ellis. I remember Mr. Ellis, man. And
English teacher.
Mr. Ellis, man. He didn't seem like he was much older than us, but I remember when we were going to
basketball. Yeah, nice jump.
Yeah, I remember we were going to a college fair, and it was me and a bunch of other kids in IS, man. I'm not gonna name them all, but we were going down to a college fair, and he saw me, man, and he was like, "What you going down there for?" And I was like, "What?" He was like, "Man, you better keep getting better in sports," and I just never forgot that. I just never forgot that, and it motivated me, And I just remember, this is probably a sad thing to say. I remember running into him in the concourse downtown, when I was working in Center City, corporate America, and I guess he thought I forgot, but we're talking everything, what I'm doing, everything. I got my suit on and everything. At the time I was working for Comcast, and he was like, "Hey man, I'm in this investment business. You should give me a play." And I'm thinking to myself like, "Man, remember what you said to me?" I didn't say it, but I just remember that like it was yesterday, man, and how that kind of propelled me, at that point, like, nobody was ever going to tell me what I couldn't do after that. I was like, nobody's ever going to tell me what I couldn't do after that. I think about that softball team. When we were just the baseball team at Strawberry Mansion. I think about that, man, where, I was the odd man out and they didn't even want me to go out for the team, because I didn't know any of them, man. And that from that moment on, like, look, man, I'm going to play on every team I get on. Ain't nobody going to stop me. And it gave me that competitive fire, man. I could just go down a list of stuff that I remember, situations in the schoolyard, that kind of helped shape and mold me, that, gave me the ability to do some of the stuff I never knew I could do. And reflection has that power. And I think too many people don't use it. Too many people, or they only think about the bad times. Or they don't think about the bad times and stuff they learn. They just think about all the good times. I liken it to, how, and I'll get in trouble for this, but that's life. How you run into that old girlfriend, man, or if you're a girl, that old boyfriend that you haven't seen in 20 years, like, man, they look good. And you racking your brain trying to figure out what happened. Man, how did I let that person or whatever. And then after 20 minutes in the conversation, the light bulb comes on. Oh, there it is. I know. And I think reflection does that. It helps you see things clearly. It helps you kind of separate, James is cracking up. It kind of helps you separate. It does. It helps you see things in a clearer perspective, man. It kind of gives you clarity. It helps you separate things because sometimes everything we see is in a bubble. Gary says, nope. Everything we see is in a bubble, man. And I think reflection does that. And I think when I look at athletes that's who are really good, like when I listen to Bryce Harper, I listen to guys like that who are really good at their sport. They're always talking about when I learned this when I was this age, I learned this age, and I had to put it all together. And I think that's how we become successful in life, is having the ability to reflect and learn from it. So what do you guys think about that, man?
It comes back to what you said earlier. We are a sum of our life's experiences.
Yeah.
And if you don't take that time to reflect, you miss out on a lot of things that you actually overcame, and things that you really had to go through in order to be who you are today. Yeah. I tell a lot of folks, and I know both of y'all can absolutely 100% attest to this. Statistically, we're not supposed to be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because statistically, I'm supposed to be dead first or locked up. Hey, I'm a young black male from East Detroit, where the cost of living was going up and the chance of living was going down. You know what I mean? So to be able to sit here and have survived all of these things, wait a minute, because we forget about surviving the hood. We forget about that part. Yeah. No, we don't forget about that part. It made us who we are.
Yeah, but not just the hood though, because I don't think there's five people. I don't think there's five people who I knew growing up who would say they knew I'd be sitting where I'm sitting at now, doing the things I'm doing now. I don't think there's five people that if we sat down and somebody said this was going to be his life would agree with that. I don't. Tommy may beg to differ, but I just don't. I don't think there's five people that would say, and so you overcome those things. But, it's those things that happened to us that got me to this point. To see, everybody didn't see the other stuff. They just saw what they saw right there. You know what I mean? So, the people from the hood didn't see what I went through in college. The people in college didn't see what I went through in the hood. The people in Mansion didn't know what I went through in Stokely. Tommy and I, we laugh and joke about Stokely Schoolyard and what we learned in there. People who have never been there or played there can't relate to that, so they don't get it. How that shaped me, man, growing up, so I think those are the things that reflection, just a few more things that reflection does for us that we forget about, because we don't take time to talk about them. It's an old saying that take time to stop and smell the roses. That's what that is. Take time, man, and enjoy life. There's times when I feel like, man, things may not go the way I wanted. And then I think about, where I'm in life now and where I was and where I could have been. And Wayne just put up something. I reflect on my past. Y'all can see it, when I was in the Army. A lot now because of my, he said it, my one leg, but I kept going and doing things, on the one leg, and see that's the courage that people don't see. People will criticize you or say this or say that. Like I get asked all the time, how come when you speak, you always tell people that you're a cancer survivor? Because it wasn't easy and everybody didn't survive it. And people always assume, that my whole life, this is how I was. No, when I think when I was in high school, I was quiet. I wasn't outgoing. Now Tommy will tell you when I played sports, it was a whole different ballgame. But I was never that. I just wasn't like that in high school. And I reflect on that time and I use it though. But I do use that time. I think back and I think about, man, and James and I, we talked about this. Remember, people come to me and says, yo, if you would have stayed in college, man, you probably, and I think, you know what? But I think God set it up. Well, I know God set it up that I was where I was supposed to be at each station in my life. And even when I think back and reflect upon it, I've known Tommy since first grade. There's so many what ifs. What if he didn't move to 32nd and Burks? What if I didn't know? There's so many what ifs, man, that, and I think, I know he says the same thing. He's been a total blessing to me and vice versa. James, we just so happened to meet down at the Palestra, playing basketball, that could have stopped right there. So I think, reflection is a way for us to grow. And I think as humans, we forget that. We forget, man, that we are not meant to stay the same. Even when we have obstacles, Wayne talked about it. We all been through something. Too many people quit because they don't reflect and say, "Man, I remember when I went through that." I remember when I went through that. Or, Tommy will tell you, man, we grew up with folk who didn't make it for no rhyme or reason. And James, I know you in the same place. So I think that's a tool that we need to share. And my last point is, because some people, man, and this is not a tough one, but I think some people don't like to reflect because they feel it's like therapy. And we know how therapy is when you start talking about people of color. So I want to talk about that aspect of it, because I've heard people say that, well, I don't want to talk, so what are your feelings around that? Look, I can use therapy. I ain't gonna lie.
I'll go first. First, I want to touch back on James from East Detroit. I didn't even know he was from East Detroit. But you're from Cherry Hill.
He bougie, that's why. No, I'm only teasing.
He's right. I had two male cousins that lived in East Detroit, and they didn't make 30. They made 21. One made 21 and said, "What I'm gonna do when I'm 25?" And he didn't make 25. The other one made 25 and said, "What I'm gonna do when I'm 30?" He didn't make 30.
Yeah.
So East Detroit was no joke, man. We went there. We had to stay in the house. It wasn't no, let's go outside. Even my cousins, they were like, "Come on, we're going outside." My dad, whoa, no. And like Chris said, we grew up in the heart of Norfolk, and so it wasn't like we wasn't around gangs, shootings and killings and all that stuff. We were there, but like you said, James and Chris said, we overcome, without reflecting back and saying, wow, and we knew people that didn't, but we know that and we feel blessed that we did make it out of there. So I said that. So Chris, that your last question, well, I don't know if it was your last question, but you said you wanted to reflect on therapy. Yes, I see a psychologist, and I see them once a week or as needed. Sometimes maybe twice a week, sometimes every other week. But yes, I feel that helps you reflect on yourself and your life and in your future if you get the right psychologist. I think that I believe that everyone should be in therapy. That's just how good therapy's been to me. I lost my father when I was 12 years old, and we was offered therapy, and it was 8 of us, 4 younger than me and 3 older. My mom didn't want to send us to therapy. We didn't think we needed it, but I went to therapy because of my MS was starting to take over things, and she recommended a therapist to relieve me of stress. Because stress is a trigger for MS that causes it to exacerbate. So I went to the therapy and went there to talk about my MS. And I ended up talking about my dad dying when I was 12. And I ended up talking about everything, reflection on life, on everything that was an impact, positive or negative. And I just believe in therapy. I think it's a tool that can really help. Therapy led me into mindfulness. It led me into meditation. I mean, those are the things that relieve stress and help me get from day to day, you know. My MS is doing, quite well because I am less stressed because of therapy. So I would preach to anybody, you may not have the right therapist if it's not working for you. You may need, sometimes they say you need to go through 5 or 10 of them, see which one that I can relate to enough and talk to me. And if you met this man that I'm in therapy with, I would almost say, wow, there's no way we should be compatible. But because he's a psychologist that that listens well and feeds back. He absolutely loves having me as a patient. You know, he's, I mean, I don't know if he's doing it for free, but he says he would do it for free. I was like, okay, I hear you, you know, but okay. But that's how much our conversation has grown on what he's learned from me and what I've learned from him. And that, you know, I mean, I don't know if he's trying to write a book on me or what, but he said he would do it for free. That was it.
But I think it's good, and because Wayne posted something and Gary posted something, but I know, and you got, because of what I do and I'm around a bunch of people, especially in our community, that self reflection and therapy kind of go hand in hand. Because the first thing somebody will say to you is if you start talking, like even if I'm counseling a couple on marriage and you start asking about reflection, oh, this is therapy. It's like that association just goes, and they say it like therapy's a bad thing. So I was glad you said that. And I was glad Wayne said what he said and Gary said what he said. So and I'll get to James. But what do you do with something like me? See, I have trust issues. I'm not gonna lie, man. I got trust issues, man. So you got to find that person. I feel, and I do it. And this is my issue, and I'll own this, and then I'll turn it over to James, and I share this with a friend of mine. I always feel like, I used to share this with Dana. I always feel like, man, my therapist is going to be judging me. I'm like Tommy, like, yo, he would be judging me, man. Like, yo, and people are going to find out, like, wow, he's not as tight as he appears to be. So it's just kind of maybe a little vain, but that's the thing I struggle with. Sorry, James, it's on you, man. Sorry about the sidebar, man.
That's vain, that's vain. That's definitely vain.
It's really not, though, because let's think about it for a moment. We put a lot of emphasis on using therapy.
Yeah.
Those of us that don't understand it will say, oh, you shouldn't go to therapy because then something wrong with you. You get marked. You get blackballed because you seek improvement so that we're not comfortable or stuck in mediocrity. You know what I mean? So therapy is, and a lot of us use it as signs of weakness. Okay, you weak. You gotta go see somebody. Okay. Or as Chris often says, it don't make you a punk, right? But really being able to, some of us don't have outlets.
Yeah.
Some of us don't have an outlet. So that therapy can be your way to, absolutely self-reflect, but just have an avenue, an unbiased avenue to get some of the stuff that gets crowded in our brain and on our chest and in our hearts, get it out so that we can improve. I'm a fan of therapy. I've only been to therapy like once in my life so far, and that was early on in my Air Force career. But some of the things that you take away from it, and some of the other things that you learn along the way just from being able to talk to other people. And when you reflect, you go, wow, I could use that. Yeah. But we look at it as such a sign of weakness, and that we got to change that narrative. We got to change that narrative. And it starts with us, but if they don't know, they don't go.
I mean, it's interesting because see, I don't view it as a sign of weakness. Tommy just called me vain, but we'll move past that. I don't view it as a sign of weakness, and me, I'm a research guy, so I'm always asking questions. My thing is this, and I'll say this publicly. I don't think it's vanity. It's just that it just, when people depend on you, you know what I mean? When people are asking you, like somebody called me today and was like, hey, what about this situation? I get that call at least once a day. People like value your opinion, and it's like, wow, I know I need an outlet because we did a whole thing on this on a Monday night about a year ago. Remember, who do you talk to? You take all this stuff in. It's just, those, trust issues. And, I'm working on it. Man. So you know what? If there's a therapist out there and you listen to this, hit me up. I want to take a shot at it. But to your point, James, you said we think something is wrong. The reality is it is. No, I'm seriously. None of us are complete, and that's one thing I do know about myself. You know, I was talking to somebody. I ran into somebody I used to play ball with in college, and we were talking, and he said, "Man, you were like an animal." He said you would get out there, man. He said, you walk around campus, people didn't pay attention, but you would get out there, man. He said you would just hit people for the sake of hitting people. You know what? And listening to y'all, that was probably my therapy. that's probably why I became good in sports, because that was my therapy. When I stepped on the court or I stepped on the field or whatever it was, that was my escape. To your point, James, I could put all my energy into that. Well, now at 61, there are no fields, there are no courts. I'm starting to hit golf ball, but that frustrates me more than it works out for me. Now I'm looking at tennis, but but so I get it. I get it. James is cracking up. I get it. But I think there's a lot of guys who feel like me. We're wrong. I'm not, please, anybody listening, we are wrong. But there's a lot of guys who feel like me, man, who feel like, man, in a smaller way, what is my wife going to think about me? You know what I mean? What are my kids going to think about me? Because I need to be, I need to be this for my family. I think that's a real stumbling block for a lot of people.
That's the stigma.
Yeah, I think
I really got to reiterate. You have to get the right person for you, and get on the couch. I mean, get on the couch. I'm just.
So don't say that. Don't say get on the couch, man. Just say go see him.
I'm saying it to you and everybody who's listening. Get on the couch. Get out there. Get on the couch. We as black men, black people, period. They're afraid of it. I tell my kids and my wife, they won't get on the couch. They need it, but that's okay. I'm on the couch for them. First of all, I love both of you brothers. I know it, and I know for a fact that both of you brothers perform therapy on people every day, almost every day. I know what y'all represent. You put therapy on me. You're a therapist your own self, but sometimes you need to get therapy for yourself. Get some therapy for yourself. Take it in. James, you had it once. You know how good it made you feel. Every now and then, hit it up again.
We're gonna put that on a T-shirt. Get on the couch.
It's funny because I was thinking the same thing. Like, that is like T-shirt material. Get on the couch.
Get on the couch, brothers. Everybody listening, get on the couch.
Yeah, but I do. I love you guys, man, and I'm so grateful that you guys could talk tonight. And this is a good topic. We got to figure out a part 2, because I think this is, the whole self-reflection is also something that I think we as men, we don't do a good job of. And I can tell you why, because in my groups when I'm talking to guys, because when you self-reflect, you kind of got to admit you were wrong. Some of that self-reflection is like, that wasn't too smart. But it's 8 o'clock, guys, so that all went past fast. So love both you brothers, man. We got my man James in there, James Young and I, and Tommy, strong in the Lord, kings in the thing, man. We got Gary just put get on the couch in the chat box.
There you go, Gary.
Get on the couch.
Get on the couch.
So that's gonna be in my head now. That's just gonna be like
that's gonna be the next slogan.
I was gonna say, so if you sign on Monday night in the Community of Men and you see get on the couch, you know where it came from, right?
Oh my goodness.
We thought it was time to get off the boat. No, it ain't time to it's time to get on the couch.
Now it's time to get on the couch. Wow.
Yeah, but I do truly appreciate both of you, man. And it's funny because as kids, we heard the saying all the time, it takes a whole village to raise a child. I think, and we forget when you become a man, it takes a whole community. It does. It takes, each and every last one of us, man. I know even for the short time that I knew Gary, it's been a long time, man. Wayne and I in high school, and I know we've all kind of had our situations and trials and tribulations, man. But, I thank God, man, because, he brought us through. He did. There's no rhyme or reason to it while we're all here, because we know people pass every day, but we are, and so we need to make the most of this time. And how you do it, man, we got to learn from our mistakes. You can't learn from your mistakes, man, if you don't go back and look at them. And not only do we learn from our mistakes, we got to grow from our strengths. We got to grow from those good times. My closing statement is I I love Jalen Hurts. You know, people in the media tease him because they say he's so boring and so, you know, but he always talks about how, you know, he was raised not to get too high, not to get too low. You know, he was raised, you know, and he said something the other day, which I'm sure I must have heard it, but I never heard it. I can't remember it. He said that his father told him, you know, they said, well, why are you like that in sports? You know, you got all these great accomplishments. He said, he says, my father told me, man, there's two things in sports you can count on. You know, either you can be humble or be humbled. And I was like, wow, he's so right. You know, that either we could be humble or be humbled. And I think a lot of us, we get humbled. We do. And I think this is so important, man, such an important topic. But I'm going to say, guys, man, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Tommy, thank you for the plug about the community of men. You know, we greatly appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's another episode. Can't have a show without a theme song, you know?
This is awesome. I love y'all, brothers.
All right, man. I see you guys. I see you guys Monday, man. Peace. Thanks a lot, Wayne. Gary, talk to you later. I'm a one-man show, so now you're going to see me get up and shut everything down. Mm-hmm.